Another thing that I heard you say on Sunday that I wanted to come back to is I loved your definition of sin, because I think so many times we talk about it, but a lot of people aren't really sure what do we mean by that term. How do you know when I'm done wrong? And
So how did that hit y'all? Because
well,
I went back and forth on
Did you?
the way I said it.
Well, let me review it in case you guys missed it or forgotten. The definition you laid out was anything we do that violates love of God and love of people.
Right.
Anything we do that violates love of God and love of people. And I also thought you did a good job of saying, love your neighbor as yourself. You start with whatever is harmful to me or whatever is harmful to neighbor. That's what sin is.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really argue with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't come up with anything that doesn't fit that.
Yeah.
Me either. I've thought about it, and now you got to do some thinking, but sometimes because there are things you can say, well, I'm not hurting anybody.
Yeah. Well, but I think that goes to the point that you said. Jesus says it's you love God and you love your neighbor as yourself, which implies I have to be able to love myself well too. And there are things that I'm doing, like you said, I'm not hurting necessarily anybody else, but I am hurting me.
I'm hurting me.
I am hurting me, and I am moving myself, and in that I'm not obeying some command of Jesus. And Jesus says, if you love me, you obey my commands.
There you go.
And that there is a part of, he says all the commands, all the law, all the prophets, it's summed up in this, which means that doesn't necessarily even replace that. It's just saying, hey, all this leads up to this. Mm-hmm. All of this is fulfilled in this. All of this you can sum it up right in this. And so, like you said, a lot of times we like to think, oh, but I am good at loving people because everything I do, I'm not hurting anybody.
I'm not hurting you.
Yeah, I'm not.
That's not love.
Yeah, I'm not actively hurting you, so I'm not. But maybe.
Well, and sometimes we all know as parents, and every parent honestly knows this, there are loving things I do that do hurt the children.
Yes.
But it's ultimately for their good, and we hope that eventually they'll see this hurt I gave you was for your benefit. But then on the other side, I know there was a long time I lived thinking I'm not hurting anybody but me, and I know this isn't good for me, but it doesn't really hurt anybody but me.
Yeah.
But what I learned when I got on the other side and back into my right mind, there was a whole bunch of people that were hurt.
Right.
Well, sure.
They were just really hurt. And a lot of things that were totally my fault, they somehow took as partial blame to themselves that they could have somehow fixed what was going on with me.
Yeah.
But
I just
even
thought my mic fell. I'm sorry, y'all. I was looking down.
You're looking down.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, let's just say, even if you were just hurting yourself,
right?
As a follower of Jesus, I know I don't belong to myself.
Well, that's another good
So there's that too.
I do not belong.
I don't have the right to harm what God has bought with the life of His Son.
Exactly.
I don't have that freedom anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, and I do think there's this thing that a lot of us sometimes feel like when I say, okay, sin's anything that violates loving God, loving myself, loving people, that it almost feels like, oh, okay, that feels a little easier. But it's way harder.
It's way harder.
And all of us know it's way harder. And I don't get to define what love looks like. If I got to define what love looks like, then then it is pretty easy because it's anything that makes me feel good or makes someone else feel good or any of that kind of stuff. But I think the point you made there too is there's often things in love I have to do that it's hard for me because it hurts a little, it stings a little. And I don't remember where I even heard this, but I think it's a pretty thing we're all aware of too is, there's a difference between hurt and harm. Yes. I often have to hurt myself or hurt something to make things better. It's like setting a bone or something like that. It's not harm. It's doing better to me.
Yes.
Not hurting myself in that moment would do harm to me.
Right.
And so there are times I have to do things. My kids, because I'm at the place in parenting where my kids are constantly scraping things and doing that, and going and cleaning the wound is hurtful.
That hurts.
It hurts a little bit, and they're constantly don't. But I know the only way to keep this from harming you is to actually allow this to hurt you a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a huge part of it. Is often we are convinced we're loving people by not saying the things we need to do or drawing the boundaries where we need to draw.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in our world, and unfortunately I see it in our church too. If I were to talk about, I think we're often nice and not kind.
Yes.
I think we sacrifice kindness for the sake of niceness.
Mm-hmm.
There are some kind things that would not feel easy to do,
Mhm.
but they're kinder coming from somebody that loves you,
Yeah.
cares about you, that you know has your best. But we're just nice because nice is easier for me.
Yes.
Nice is what it's easier for me to be nice. And we chalk it up to the saying, you are not always kind when you're nice.
It's interesting. We just had that distinction you just made. We just had that conversation in my small group the
Mhm.
last time we had the discussion on the fruits of the spirit. You know, kindness, goodness,
Right.
all that stuff. And somebody said something about being kind. They said, "Is that the same thing as being nice?" And we basically, I didn't say it exactly the way you did, but that was basically what we came down to: is I can be nice and be unkind at the same time.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Niceness is kind of going along with you, and it's just keeping. It's not making waves, or it's just being real kind of soft, to be quite honest. But kindness is sometimes not soft.